What if I told you that the most unforgettable, intimate experiences have nothing to do with what you look like naked? While the world obsesses over youth and perfection, neuroscience has uncovered something revolutionary. There are 7 neurological triggers that create lasting emotional imprints, and they require something only emotional maturity can provide. The women who create the most profound, intimate bonds aren't who society tells you they should be. They're the ones who understand how vulnerability becomes power, and authenticity becomes magnetic. And if you've ever wondered why some women possess an almost mystical ability to captivate their partners, while others struggle despite doing everything right, you're about to discover the science behind unforgettable connections. The answer will probably surprise you. Last month, I received a letter from Sarah, a 47-year-old executive who had been married for 18 years. "My husband looks at me the way he did when we first met," she wrote. "But I'm not the same woman I was then. I'm better." How is that possible? This isn't an isolated case. In my 2 decades of research, I've witnessed something remarkable happening to women in their 40s, 52s, and beyond. They're not just rediscovering their sensuality, they're unlocking levels of magnetic connection they never knew existed. The secret isn't found in any beauty magazine or technique manual. It lies in understanding how the human brain actually bonds, how memories are created, and why certain encounters become unforgettable while others fade away. Through brain imaging studies and thousands of interviews, I've identified 7 specific elements that create what I call emotional imprints. Connections so deep they rewire how a partner sees and desires you. These elements don't require youth, perfect bodies, or complicated techniques. They require something far more powerful: the wisdom that comes from truly knowing yourself. Here's what changed everything for me: when I stopped looking at what makes relationships work and started studying what makes them unforgettable. I discovered that the most magnetically attractive women weren't the ones society celebrates. They were the ones who had learned to transform their deepest vulnerabilities into their greatest strengths. As depth psychology teaches us, there exists an archetypal wisdom in the experienced woman that transcends the merely physical. True magnetic power emerges when we integrate all parts of ourselves: our light and shadow, our strength and tenderness, our certainty and mystery. The first element that completely transforms the masculine experience is what I call authentic neuro-emotional validation. And here's what many women don't understand. It's not about pretending, acting, or making noises. It's about something completely different. When a man hears real, honest words that come from your genuine experience during intimacy, his brain releases a cascade of dopamine that creates deep emotional associations. I'm not talking about rehearsed moans. I'm talking about phrases like, "I love you," "What you're doing drives me crazy," "I love being with you like this." Do you know what happens neurologically when you say this with authenticity? His nervous system interprets that he's not only being physically successful, but that he's being seen, recognized, and valued as a man. And this activates what we call the primary masculine reward circuit. You, who have lived mature relationships, know that men, no matter how confident they seem, have a deep need to know they're doing things right with you. This authentic verbal validation is like injecting directly into his emotional system the certainty that you are happy with him, that he generates real pleasure for you. But let me explain something that completely changed my perspective: the difference between manipulative validation and authentic validation. Manipulative validation comes from fear, from wanting to please, from acting a role. Authentic validation comes from your own experience of pleasure, from your capacity to be present and really feel what is happening. I've worked with women who had completely lost their authentic voice in intimacy. Women who believed they had to act, that they had to meet expectations, that they had to be perfect to be desired. And when they rediscovered their capacity to express their real pleasure without acting, high chat gapped. everything changed. I especially remember the case of a 45-year-old woman who came to my practice feeling completely disconnected from her sexuality. She had spent years acting what she believed her partner wanted to hear. When she learned to connect with her real experience and express it without filters, she not only transformed her relationship but recovered a part of herself she thought was lost forever. This brings me to this second fundamental element, what I call spontaneous, emotional enthusiasm. This is something that only mature women can offer genuinely, because we've learned to connect with our own pleasure without shame. Here comes something I constantly observe in my practice. Men are biologically programmed to detect if a woman is really present or if she's acting. His primitive brain, that part that doesn't lie, knows how to distinguish between an authentic response and a performance. When you laugh, when you play, when you react without filters, when you allow yourself to be spontaneous, you're sending deep neurological signals that tell his system she's here, she's enjoying. This is real. And that authenticity creates what we call high-intensity emotional memory. I've seen wonderful women lose their light by believing they had to act, that they had to be perfect, that they had to meet unrealistic expectations. But the truth is exactly the opposite. Your spontaneity, your capacity to be present in your own pleasure, is what creates that indelible connection. And here comes something that neuroscience taught me. When a woman is genuinely present in her own pleasure, she releases pheromones and energetic signals that the male brain perceives at an unconscious level. This activates in him not only physical arousal, but deep emotional connection. The difference between a woman who acts and one who is present is abysmal in terms of neurological impact. The first can generate temporary physical pleasure. The second creates lasting neural bonds that make him associate that experience with something unique, special, and irreplaceable. Your capacity to laugh when something really amuses you, to sigh when you feel authentic pleasure, to move as your body wants to move without mental choreography. It's what creates that magic that transcends the physical and settles into the emotional. The third element that makes the difference is something apparently simple but neurologically powerful: prolonged eye contact during intimacy. And here's what many women don't understand. It's not about a technique. It's about authentic emotional vulnerability. When you maintain eye contact during those intimate moments, you're activating his deepest emotional bonding system. Neurologically sustained eye contact releases oxytocin, the attachment hormone, and creates what we call neuronal synchronization. But this requires something that only emotional maturity can offer: the capacity to show yourself vulnerable without fear, to be present without hiding, to look at him without masks, is an act of emotional courage that men instinctively recognize as something extraordinary. You, who have learned to know yourself, who have worked on yourself, who have healed wounds, have the capacity to offer this authentic presence. And that presence translates into deep neurological connection that he will remember forever. And here comes something that clinical experience taught me. This eye contact is not just visual. It's energetic. It's emotional. It's communication without words of two nervous systems that recognize and value each other mutually. Many women avoid eye contact during intimacy due to shame, insecurities, fear of being seen completely. But when a mature woman learns to sustain that gaze, to allow him to see her in her totality, she creates a level of intimacy that goes far beyond the physical. I've observed that this conscious eye contact activates in men what we call soul recognition, that sensation of seeing and being seen at the deepest level. And this generates a positive emotional addiction that makes them associate that experience with something sacred, unique, and irreplaceable. Neuroscience teaches us that when two people maintain eye contact during moments of vulnerability, it creates what we call brain synchronization. Their brain waves literally align, creating an experience of union that transcends high chat gapped. The individual. The fourth element revolutionizes the dynamic completely, what I call feminine emotional initiative. And this is especially powerful for mature women because we've learned to know what we want and express it without shame. Let me explain something that changes everything. Men are accustomed to leading, taking initiative, being the ones who seek. When a mature woman takes initiative, not from desperation, but from her own authentic desire, she activates in him something I call validation of being desired. I'm not talking about being aggressive or acting outside your essence. I'm talking about small gestures that communicate I desire you, I choose you, value you. It can be as simple as approaching and kissing him first, whispering something in his ear, or taking his hand and guiding it. Do you know what happens in his brain when you do this? His reward system associated with feeling chosen, valued, desired, is activated. Or a man feeling that a woman seeks him from her own authenticity, not from need, but from genuine desire. It's neurologically addictive. And here's what many women don't understand. This initiative must come from your connection with yourself, from your capacity to recognize your own desire and express it. It's not a technique. It's an authentic expression of your mature femininity. But here comes something I constantly observe. Many mature women have learned to repress this initiative due to past wounds, fear of rejection, social conditioning. Recovering this capacity to express your desire is recovering your most authentic feminine power. I've worked with women who had completely lost their capacity to express desire, women who always waited for him to take initiative, who had become accustomed to being passive, to not expressing what they really wanted. And when they recovered this capacity, the entire relationship dynamic was transformed. Mature feminine initiative is different from juvenile initiative. It doesn't come from insecurity or the need for validation. It comes from a place of fullness, self-knowledge, capacity to choose consciously, and this is irresistible to the male brain. When a woman of 30, 40, 50 years or more takes initiative from her authenticity, she's communicating something powerful. I choose to be here with you. I desire this. I value this moment. And that communication generates a deep neurological response of gratitude and connection in him. The fifth element is perhaps the deepest and most transformative, what I call conscious emotional presence, and this is something we can only offer when we've done the internal work of knowing and healing ourselves. I'm going to be honest with you. In a world of superficial connections, casual relationships, soulless encounters, real emotional presence is revolutionary. When a mature woman can be emotionally present during intimacy, she creates an experience that marks for life. What does conscious emotional presence mean? It means slowing down the rhythm when your heart asks you to, embracing when you feel the need for connection, breathing together. Allowing emotions to flow without censorship means being in your body, in your heart, in the present moment. Men, although many don't express it verbally, have a deep hunger for this authentic emotional presence. Their nervous system recognizes when a woman is truly present, when she's not acting or meeting expectations, but simply being. And this activates in them what I call the deep attachment system. It's not just physical attraction. It's not just bodily pleasure. It's soul-to-soul recognition. It's the experience of being seen, accepted, and valued in totality. Let me explain something that the neuroscience of attachment has taught me. When two nervous systems meet in this authentic emotional presence, what we call neurological co-regulation is created. Their heart rhythms synchronize, their breathing harmonizes, their nervous systems calm each other. This is the difference between mechanical sex and transformative intimate encounter. And this capacity for emotional presence is something we develop with maturity, with self-knowledge. Hi chat gapped. Chatgaptni, with the capacity to inhabit our own body without shame. I've observed in my clinical practice that mature women who have done therapeutic work, who have healed emotional wounds, who have learned to be present with themselves, have a unique capacity to offer this conscious emotional presence. It's no coincidence that many men seek relationships with mature women after having experienced superficial connections. There's something in the emotional presence of a woman who knows herself, who accepts herself, who has healed herself, that is deeply healing and addictive to the masculine soul. This conscious emotional presence includes the capacity to feel and express gratitude during intimacy. When you can genuinely feel what a gift this moment is, what a blessing this connection is, that energy of gratitude is transmitted and creates a sacred experience. It also includes the capacity to be present with the emotions that arise. If you feel tenderness, you allow it. If you feel deep connection, you express it. If you're moved by the beauty of the moment, you share it. This emotional authenticity is what converts a physical encounter into a transformative experience. As Carl Jung explained in his theory of individuation, the maturation process implies integrating all parts of our psyche, including our sexuality and our capacity for emotional intimacy. This integration is what allows us to offer such an authentic and powerful presence. The sixth element that completely transforms the experience is what I call the art of creative, emotional attention. And here comes something that experience taught me. Male brains are programmed to respond intensely to well-managed anticipation. I'm not talking about manipulative games or making things difficult out of whim. I'm talking about something much more sophisticated, the capacity to create emotional and physical tension that intensifies desire and makes the subsequent encounter neurologically more impactful. This can be as subtle as a touch that stops just when he wants more, a look that promises but doesn't deliver immediately, words whispered that create expectation. It's the art of mature seduction, where every gesture has intention and every pause has purpose. Do you know what happens neurologically when you create this conscious anticipation? His brain releases dopamine not only during the encounter, but during the entire expectation phase. This makes him associate your presence with anticipatory pleasure, creating what we call positive emotional addiction. But here's the crucial difference. This tension must come from your own connection with yourself, from your capacity to feel your own seductive power, not from insecurities or need for control. When it comes from an authentic place, it's magnetic. And here comes something I constantly observe. Mature women have a natural advantage in this because we've learned to know our rhythms, our desires, our times. We can create this tension from wisdom, not from neurosis. This capacity to manage timing, to create conscious pauses, to allow desire to grow gradually is an art that is perfected with emotional experience. And men instinctively recognize it as something extraordinary. Creative emotional attention also includes the capacity to create moments of deep emotional intimacy, followed by lighter and more playful moments. This variation in emotional intensity keeps the male brain constantly stimulated and connected. I've seen how women who master this art of conscious tension can keep their partners deeply connected, not only during intimacy, but in all aspects of the relationship. It's as if they knew how to play the strings of the masculine soul with mastery. It also implies the capacity to delay gratification consciously and seductively, not from manipulation, but from deep knowledge that what is awaited with anticipation is enjoyed with greater intensity. Jung spoke about the importance of creative tension in the individuation process. This same tension, applied consciously in the realm of intimacy, can completely transform the experience of connection between two people. And we reach the seventh element, which is perhaps the most powerful and transformative, what I call vulnerable authenticity without mask. This is the element that separates memorable encounters from forgettable ones, and it's something we can only offer when we've done the deep work of accepting ourselves completely. I'm going to tell you something that can change your perspective forever. The most memorable sex for a man is not the most technically perfect. It's not the one with the most perfect body. It's not the most acrobatic. It's the one where the woman is completely present in her authenticity, without acting, without pretending, without hiding, when you stop trying to be perfect and simply are real. When you allow your vulnerability to show, when you give yourself permission to be spontaneous without censorship, you're offering something that is increasingly rare in this world: pure authenticity. And here's what many women don't understand. This authenticity is not weakness, it's power. It's the power of a woman who knows herself, accepts herself, and allows herself to be seen completely. And this is neurologically addictive for the male brain. Do you know why? Because when you allow yourself to be authentic, you give him permission to also take off his mask. And this creates what I call vulnerability, synchronization, where two people meet soul to soul, without defenses, without performances. I've seen extraordinary transformations when women understand this. Women who believed they had to act, who had to meet unrealistic expectations, who had to be perfect, they discover that their vulnerable authenticity is their most powerful gift. Let me explain something that the neuropsychology of attachment has taught me. When two people meet in this mutual authenticity, deep bonding systems are activated that go beyond the physical. High-intensity emotional memory is created that endures over time. Your capacity to laugh when something makes you laugh, to sigh when you feel real pleasure, to tremble when you get excited, to say what you really feel without filters, without acting, and what creates that indelible connection. And here comes something I especially observe in mature women. We've learned through experience that perfection is an illusion, that authenticity is what really connects, that conscious vulnerability is our emotional superpower. This vulnerable authenticity includes allowing yourself to feel the emotions that arise during intimacy. If you feel tenderness, you express it. If you feel gratitude, you share it. If you feel deep connection, you allow it. You don't censor your authentic emotional experience. But let me be clear about something fundamental. Authenticity doesn't mean lack of boundaries or self-respect. It means being true to yourself within a context of self-love and mutual respect. It means expressing your truth from a place of inner strength, not from need or desperation. Vulnerable authenticity also includes the capacity to communicate your real desires, your authentic fantasies, your emotional needs during intimacy, not from a place of demand, but from a place of sharing your inner world. I've worked with women who had spent decades hiding their true sexual nature, adapting to what they believed their partners wanted, acting roles that didn't correspond to them. And when they finally allowed themselves to be authentic, their entire experience of intimacy was radically transformed. This authenticity also includes the capacity to show your imperfections without shame, your marks, your scars, your peculiarities, everything that makes you unique. When a mature woman can show her body and soul without apologies, she creates an experience of total acceptance that is deeply healing for both. Carl Jung wrote about the importance of integrating our shadow, those parts of ourselves we prefer to hide in the context of intimacy. This integration becomes the capacity to show ourselves, complete with our light and our shadow. And this is what creates truly transformative connections. And here's what can transform your love life forever. When you integrate these 7 elements from your mature authenticity, you not only create memorable experiences for him, but you recover your own connection with your deepest feminine power. I understand that if you've been hurt, if you've had experiences where you weren't valued, if you felt you had to act to be loved, it can be terrifying to allow yourself this authentic vulnerability. But I assure you, it's the path to real connection. Because the truth is this: the sex that marks for life is not technical. It's emotional, it's not perfect. It's authentic. It's not acted, it's felt. And when a mature woman understands this and allows herself to inhabit it, she becomes magnetic at a level that transcends the physical. Your emotional maturity, your capacity to be present, your ability to be authentic without shame, your wisdom to create conscious tension, your power to validate from sincerity, your gift to take initiative from real desire, and your capacity for vulnerable eye contact are the most powerful tools you have. You don't need to be younger. You don't need to have another body. You don't need to learn complicated techniques. You need to connect with these elements that already live in you, that have been refined with your experience, that have deepened with your personal growth. And when you do, when you allow yourself to be this authentic and powerful version of yourself in intimacy, you not only create memorable experiences for him, but you reconnect with your own deepest and most transformative feminine essence. I've seen women of 40, 50, 60 years rediscover their seductive power in ways they never imagined possible. Women who believe their best years had passed discover that actually their most magnetic and powerful years were beginning. And this happens because true seduction, the one that marks and transforms, doesn't come from youth or physical perfection. It comes from self-knowledge, from emotional presence, from the capacity to love without masks, from the wisdom that is only acquired by living, feeling, healing. Remember that every emotional scar you've healed has given you more capacity for compassion. Every wound you've transformed has given you more depth. Every experience you've lived has given you more wisdom to authentically connect with another human being. Because in the end, the sex that really marks the one that remains an emotional memory forever is the one where two people meet in their most real, most vulnerable, most authentic humanity. And that capacity for real encounter is the most precious gift you can offer and receive. This is your true advantage as a mature woman. You don't need to compete with younger versions of yourself or with other women. Your power lies in something completely different and unique. It lies in your capacity to create real emotional intimacy, to offer authentic presence, to love without fear, to connect soul to soul. And when a woman embraces this truth and allows herself to inhabit it completely, she becomes a force of love so powerful that she transforms not only her intimate relationships, but her entire life experience. Because when you know who you are and allow yourself to be it completely, you radiate a magic that is absolutely irresistible. A magic that doesn't depend on age, the perfect body, or learned techniques, but on something much deeper: the capacity to be authentically yourself, in all your magnificence. This is the true revolution of the mature woman, understanding that our seductive power doesn't diminish with years, but rather, it refines, deepens, becomes more authentic, and therefore more powerful. When you embrace this truth, you not only transform your intimate life, but you become a beacon of authenticity that inspires other women to reclaim their own power. Emotional maturity is the most powerful aphrodisiac that exists because it implies the capacity to be completely present, to love without conditions, to connect from the deepest truth. And that is a magic that no technique can teach, because it's born from lived experience, from the healed heart, from the soul that has found itself. Here's the truth. They don't want you to know. Your most powerful years aren't behind you. They're just beginning. While the world chases youth and perfection, you possess something infinitely more valuable: the alchemy of lived experience transformed into wisdom, pain transmuted into depth, and scars evolved into strength. Every moment you thought made you less than has actually been building your greatest superpower. The capacity to love without masks, to connect without pretense, to offer presence so authentic, it becomes absolutely magnetic. This isn't about competing with anyone. This isn't about turning back time. This is about stepping into the fullness of who you've become. A woman who understands that true seduction lives not in perfection, but in the courage to be profoundly, unapologetically real. The 7 elements I've shared aren't techniques to master. They're invitations to remember who you already are, beneath all the conditioning, all the hurt, all the stories that told you your worth was tied to your youth. Your vulnerability is your strength. Your authenticity is your magnetism. Your emotional maturity is your revolution. The question isn't whether you're enough. The question is, are you ready to remember just how magnificent you've always been? Because when you do, you don't just transform your intimate connections. You become a force of nature that changes everything it touches. The world needs women who remember their power. Will you be one of them? Hi chat gapped.